all the way through.
Okay.
So if you go to page, I don't know what page this is.
It's-
So if you go down, you'll actually see the standards, and then we can look at and just make sure that all of our formatives have all of the essential standard pieces of it, and if there's anything we need to add, or if any formatives we wanna add into the unit.
Okay. So I think with SGB5, use facts about supplementary, complementary, vertical, and adjacent angles and multi-step problems to write and solve simple equations for an unknown angle. I think we nailed it. I think we've got it. Number one, we make them identify X, and then from there, they have to build on their knowledge of all three of those angles in order to determine and make an equation. Correct?
Well, and also, I think that it's good that on our assessment, we're requiring them, like, depending upon the picture, identifying what does X equal, and then applying that, and then figuring out the measurement of multiple angles. So not just figuring out the one angle, like trying to figure out all the angles in the picture. So I think that one is probably the one that we've covered the best.
Yeah, it's good scaffolding technique for the special education group too.
So as opposed to just finding X, find
Yeah.
X, now use X to
Yes.
find what 2X
Yeah.
or 3X equal.
Exactly, and can be considered multi-step problems, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Alright, so 7GB5 looks good. We have another formula, or another quiz, it looks like for 7GB4.
Understand and use the formulas for the area and circumference of a circle to solve problems. Given an informal duration of the relationship between circumference and area of circle. Is that what you're
Maybe
looking
it's
at?
6, yeah, maybe it's 6 instead.
So 7GB6,
Yeah,
solve mathematical problems and problems in a real-world context involving area of two-dimensional objects composed of triangles, quadrilaterals, and other polygons. Solve mathematical problems that are real-world context involving volume. So we don't have the volume one
Yeah,
yet, so
so-
we've gotta do that part, but the two-dimensional,
so we have it looks like we have the first half, so we have composite figures, we don't really have a lot of
except they're not
the
real
real
world.
world, so
Yeah.
we might need to add.
Well, but we could easily turn this into a track and field
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
completely, right?
Yeah, it could become a real world problem.
This could
for
be a
sure.
garden.
So do we take off the figure and describe it and make them draw the figure? So just give it to them in a word problem, they draw the figure, and then they have to figure it out from there. So I'm not saying all of them, but
I think
At
for
least
one of
one of
these, that
them,
would be a
yeah.
really good thing to
Yeah.
do.
So make a word problem, and from that word problem, they create a visual picture as a representation, and then calculate it out from there.
yeah.
Okay.
I think probably the one that looks like a track would probably be the best one for us to use. Like you said, it's a reference, and it's something that they've seen before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How would you go about doing the half circle, or describing the half circle as far as for the track? I mean, they know what a track is, obviously, but would you start with saying you needed two lengths that were equal at 32 feet?
Well, would
like-
you relate it to like the end zone?
I would say
I-
a football field, like,
Yeah.
describe like the football field is the rectangle, and then it's two semicircles.
Oh, so you, and
Yeah.
that's what you'd say, so
I
you'd
see.
say two with a diameter of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
and we could just use.
Because
that
the
as
width
a
of the
reference
football
to
field would actually be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to make sure that we, cover like, what is a semicircle, what does that mean, and things
Yeah,
like
which
that, so that
we
we can
usually
dive
do.
into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, and I
Yeah.
really think that a lot of that GEB4 gets incorporated into this, cause we have two different shapes, three actually, where they're working with circles in this composite shape. So, not all aspects of it, but many aspects of it.
Yeah, I think the
are in
second
there.
half, the derivation of the relationship between the circumference and area of a circle, like, we don't, on the quiz, we're not gonna ask them to do that portion necessarily. Like, they're
Correct, but
using that
we could
relationship, but they're
definitely
not-
informally assess that, right, and have them doing it.
So on a problem like this, would it be good to like, say that this is a garden, and then this section right here is tomatoes, this section right here is like strawberries, this section is, I don't know, cauliflower, and then you could have them find out the areas for those, and that could be a scaffolding, so how big is your total garden, or what's the area of your total garden? Is that something that
Like
you
prior
could do?
to the.
Like
assessment?
prior to doing, well, yeah, something like that, or do we wanna do that, would that tie into a real world problem as well? Or do we just wanna have the one real world problem in there?
That's a good question. I mean, do we want,
Do we wanna put two and then
Two.
have three basic, or do we wanna just have one real world? At this point, it might just be easier to have one real world.
I think one real world, just cause there's a lot to it. And
Okay.
I don't think we would have time to do 5 problems, because each problem is really 2.
It takes
So that's
a
10,
lot
and
of
there's a
time.
lot to it, yeah.
Yeah, but we could definitely, I mean, we could make the shape a little bit smaller so that, you had a little bit of room. But you could do what you just said, Zach, you could do, here's a garden, there's this and this and this. But we need to figure out how much surface area there is here in order to be able to lay down whatever that is that we're gonna
Yeah.
do. But give them the shape, but tie it into a real world situation so that they know this is how you would use this in the real world,
Yeah,
right?
yep, okay.
what about trying to create a problem where they have the circle, like, they're taking the circle out of a square, out of that inside, and they have to subtract it out rather than add it in?
We need to do,
So you know what
yeah,
I mean? That's like removing a section
Yeah.
necessarily.
So what if we switch, I'm looking at the one that has it in the boxes, although I think it's the same problem.
They're the
in all
same problems,
places,
just
it's
different numbers.
Different numbers. What if we take away the third problem here?
It's pretty similar. to that second
Because I feel like according to the standard, we need to keep the triangle,
one. Yes.
right? We've already done a rectangle, this has a rectangle as well. So our rectangle is duplicated with the circles. So we could eliminate this one, especially since we want this one to be a real world one that they create. And make it one that's I would like to do I don't know, would you do a circle and a circle? I mean, you've seen that before too, right?
Like
Where
a
you do like a
bullseye?
bullseye and they have to figure out the thing, or, I mean, it's intriguing to me to do a square where they're just trying to figure out the little parts of the
Like the
corners.
frame kind of thing.
How much, yeah, how much is what's the area of the corners?
Yeah, I kinda like the square one, cause it's adding multiple shapes in
two,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have it go?
So
on
I would say for that one, we might create a word problem, so they read it, but then also give them the shape, so
Mhm.
they're still seeing like, this is the context within this problem, this is the shape, they don't have to create that one on their own
So
necessarily,
what kind
but they still
of
have
real
to.
world problem would you have for that?
I mean, it could be something like, you know, how
It-
much, but it's like an advertisement or something, they're not using that middle section, how much material they're using maybe, or.
It really, like, it could be, I know that Brenda doesn't have them, but the blocks in our room
Mm-hmm.
are a square with that circle cut out where the wheels of the table fit into that.
Yeah, except that they're not like completely touching. There's no side, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like, there's an
Yeah.
actual box in there. I guess that would be okay.
here's the thing, you could
So it's
also
more
do,
like-
I mean, could you do where you're figuring
More
out
like that.
Yeah,
tigers staked in the center? Where
So
can-
that, I
where can you
definitely want,
stand?
I was thinking about, like, I really wanna use that problem,
Yeah.
probably more as a extension enrichment type
Yeah.
problem.
But for this, you could say a tiger sticky at where, well, no, I guess no, because if you're gonna.
cause that problem I think should be when we do reteach of this.
Yeah.
Like that should be that extension problem that
Oh,
so I think introducing that too early would not have that day be really a discovery thing with those kids that are ready for that problem.
Right.
So the kids who haven't mastered this yet and are being retaught these concepts, that would be a great problem, I think, for that day, to do that extension and have them really discover that, you know, what happens in that situation with that chain, you know, and with the fence, and how far around can they really go. So I think if we could be careful about not doing that early, I think that would be a really intriguing one for those kids.
That's her gently saying, don't do
Don't
it
do it.
until.
Yeah, I know you're excited about it, but wait, don't do it.
So for this one, though, too, is it's gonna be important because we're only gonna give them, if it's a square and a circle, we're only gonna give them one number,
One
right?
dimension, yes.
One dimension.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have to do
Just
almost
like
like the
that.
what do you know, what do you don't know? Like one of those
Mhm.
tables, so that they can go through and they can say, all right, I know the length of this square is this, can you figure out what the area is? Yes, I can do, and just kind of build it from there. I
Well,
mean, that's
now,
what we might